Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is James Salvatore, and today I have the all-new 2020 Mercedes GLS 450 here for you. Now, this is a complete redesign for 2020, so there's a lot to talk about here. Today I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about it to help you better make your purchase decision. But before we get into the video, be sure that you like the video to help with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe and turn on the bell notification to be alerted when I post new videos. I do everything on the channel from new car reviews, new car comparisons, classic cars, exotic cars, and pretty much everything in between. I like to have fun, so be sure to stick around. And with that, let's get into the video. Start the video off, I just want to give you a brief overview on the GLS class in general. Now, besides the AMG cars, you have two options here. You have the GLS 450, which is this one, and then you have the GLS 580. Now, the differences between these two come with their powertrains. For the GLS 450, you get an inline turbocharged 6-cylinder putting out 362 horsepower, and for the V8 model, which is the 580, you get 482 horsepower. Now, both of these models come equipped with Mercedes' new EQ Boost system, which runs off of a 48-volt battery pack that kind of just helps you get smoother acceleration off the line, especially with the start-stop function. With the electric motors to compensate for that little bit of lag when the engine's starting, you get a nice, smooth acceleration, which you don't get in a lot of cars with these new start-stop systems. So really cool to see that Mercedes is integrating hybrid technology here. I think Mercedes has done a really good job at making all their SUVs easily identifiable now as a Mercedes SUV. And you could tell that they definitely took their time with the GLS, seeing it was one of the last ones refreshed. However, I don't think that's a bad thing. Just take a look at all the elements they've included. They've took a little bit from each of the other ones that they redesigned and made sure that they made this one look the best because it is the top model. You could tell, now with Mercedes naming language, like say with the GLE, it represents the E-class of their SUV lineup, or the GLC is the C-class of their SUV lineup. However, this is the GLS, and you could see where it kind of takes a little bit of influence from the S-class and brings it to an SUV, especially in the headlights right here. You have the signature LED now with 3 strips similar to the S-class. Now, this is Mercedes multi-beam LED headlighting system, so it's actually really cool within itself because at nighttime, it splits the beams around oncoming traffic, always giving you the most optimal lighting field of view at night because it'll literally follow you around turns and turn on the high beams and turn them off as needed. Let's talk about how practical the GLS is, because chances are if you're buying this car, you're buying it to fit your family. And to test that today, I'm going to test out the legroom in the second row of seats as well as the third row. And then I'm going to show you how much trunk space you get. But on a side note, if you're wondering why we're shooting outside today for the rest of the video, it's because it's a gorgeous day here in Connecticut and we really don't get that many of those in the winter time. Let's get back into the comparison now. So for this test, keep in mind that I'm 6'1" and I've set up my seat comfortably in the front. Now I'm going to see how well a full-size adult can fit behind somebody who's approximately my size. You could tell Mercedes was definitely looking to go with an S-Class feel in the rear of the GLS. I mean, the first thing you'll notice is that the rear seats are fully powered. Just take a look at that. Fully electric, headrest and everything. Just like the front row seats. You'll also notice that every seat back here is heated. And just take a look at what they did for rear legroom. I mean, look at that. I have so much space. My knees are so far away from the front seat, and I have plenty of headroom. You can easily fit somebody who's 6'5" back here. No problem at all. And that's not all. Take a look at this. You also have a power side window shade, which definitely reminds me of being in an S-Class. Getting into the third row of seats in the GLS is really super easy. I mean, especially with the models with the captain's chairs, you just come on back here. However, keep in mind, you can opt to have a bench row for the second row of seats so that you get that seventh seat if that's important to you. Now, sitting back here, I could tell that it wasn't really ideally designed for full-size adults. However, they have made it possible because you have enough headroom back here to fit somebody comfortably. It's just the legroom that's a little bit iffy. However, one nice thing is you can move up the second row of seats to accommodate. You can slide it forward to accommodate larger passengers. And as long as you keep that in mind, you know, if you're willing to make that compromise, you can fit full-size people back here. Now, since they know that kids are going to be back here primarily, I think it's cool that they included 2 USB-C ports back here, as well as heated seats. I have not seen heated seats in the third row of a vehicle before. Now let's see how the GLS does with rear cargo room. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the easy access feature. So all you have to do is, if you have the key in your pocket, you wave your foot underneath the trunk, and the trunk opens. So if you're approaching the vehicle and you need to load something, it's really easy to get inside. And if you want to close the vehicle because, say, you're taking something out and you're going back into the house or something, just as easy. Just wave your foot underneath the trunk and it closes for you. Now, if that's not for you and you just don't want to deal with that, you can also just open it right from underneath the emblem, nice and easy, as we've always been able to do in the past. With the third row of seats up, this is what you get for storage space. And let's face it, that's not enough. So chances are when you go shopping, you're going to need to put down the third row of seats. And this is how you do it. The GLS, everything's automatic. There's no pulling any straps or anything. All you have to do is hit the button right here. You push once and the left side will drop down. You push this side and the right side will drop down. Nice and easy. And it goes the other way too. If you need to put up the third row of seats, and it's really easy. Just press the button the other way and the third row of seats will come back up. Just like that. However, that's not the GLS's only party trick when it comes to rear storage. Take a look at this. If you need to load something heavy into the car and you don't want to lift it up that high, if you push this button, the GLS will begin to lower itself. Take a look at this. This is really cool. And it does it really quickly too. Just take a look at that thing lower. Just take a look at how much easier it is to load things now. With the GLS at its lowest point, it's about by my knees now, whereas before it was at my hips. So definitely a useful feature, especially like, say, you're trying to load a heavy TV or something into the car. Just makes life a little bit easier. And then if you want to put the vehicle back up, you just hit the button again and it'll raise. However, you don't need to do that. If you turn on the vehicle and you put it into drive, it will automatically self-level itself and go back to driving. As you can see from what I've shown you, the GLS is a very family-friendly, practical car. And next, I'd like to take you through some of the features of the infotainment system and the driver's information center, and just talk about overall features in general. One of the first things I'd like to talk about is build quality. When it comes to this interior, Mercedes has done an excellent job with build quality. Everything in here feels high quality to the touch. You have nice woods in here. You have leather stitching everywhere. The dash is top stitched. And you have these beautiful looking Burmester speaker grills, which overall add to the high class luxury feel of this vehicle. Now, a few interesting quirks that I found with it. If you hit this little button here next to your standard seat controls, you have your power adjusted seats, you're heated and cooled, but if you hit the button farthest, it allows you to control the right passenger seat as if you were sitting there. It's just a nice feature because if somebody hops in your car that doesn't understand how to control the seats, you could just move it for them. Or if somebody hops in the rear passenger seat and you want to move the seat out of the way for them, you could do that. Just a nice feature to have. And I also found another feature in the infotainment system that's extremely useful. And what it does is it prepares for you to go into a car wash. All you need to do to access that is go into your settings, the quick access page, then hit that, and then you just hit start. And what it does is it folds your mirrors in, it raises your vehicle up, turns off all your parking sensors, your rain wipers, and then it'll even turn on the cameras so that people driving your car can maneuver it safely without hopefully damaging the vehicle. What it also does too is it limits the vehicle to just 12 miles an hour so that if you have to hand over the keys to somebody, you know that they're not going to be beaten on your car, which is just nice to know that you have. I just thought that you guys should know about those features because those are features that I've just never seen in another car, and sometimes it's the little things like that that matter to people. Now let's talk about the infotainment system. Now the GLS has Mercedes' newest infotainment system called MBUX, which stands for Mercedes Benz User Experience. And the feature point of this new system is the virtual assistant that you get. It's kind of like an Alexa or a Siri. And how you operate it is you say, "Hey Mercedes."
How may I help you?
And then you can pretty much tell it whatever you want. Like say for instance, "Hey Mercedes, I'm cold."
I'm setting the temperature on the front passenger side to 78 degrees.
And just like that, it knew exactly what I wanted and raised the temperature. Very useful, but you can also tell it to do other things too. Like say for instance, "Hey Mercedes,
How may I help you?"
turn the display off."
Okay, I'm switching off the display.
"Hey Mercedes, hey Mercedes,
How may I help you?
turn on the display."
Okay, I'm switching on the display.
Like, you don't have to rehearse these voice commands. It's just natural. However you talk to your Siri or Alexa, just talk to the car like that. It's finally nice that you have these systems in these vehicles that are so accurate and actually do what you want them to do. And Mercedes has done a great job with MBUX. Another thing that I'd like to point out real quick is that Apple CarPlay comes standard on the GLS, and that's a really important thing because as these systems age and the technology just advances, you don't want to have a system in 3-4 years that feels old. I could tell you from experience, I have a 2018 Mercedes C300 Coupe, and the infotainment system in that car already feels outdated because I don't have Apple CarPlay. I can't get the newest features that I want to have, and I'm constantly on my phone. Apple CarPlay does really well at literally covering everything you need in the infotainment system, and as Apple updates the system, it stays updated, so therefore you're always up to date with the latest software. Next, I'd like to talk about how you interact with the system, and Mercedes has done a great job at making sure that they've catered to all their customers. The first way you can interact with the system is via these two touchpads on the steering wheel. The left one controls all your driver's information screen data, and the right pad here allows you to fully control the infotainment system. Just take a look. So if I hit the button over here, you can see that all I'm doing is bumping left, right, up, and down. And to select something, all I do is click the button. It doesn't get any easier than having a touchpad on the wheel, and it doesn't get any safer either because I never have to take my hands off the wheel to distract myself to touch something on this infotainment system. However, if that's not for you, there's two other ways as well. The infotainment screen is also touchscreen with the MBUX system. It's nice and fluid and responsive, and it does everything you want it to. And the third way is via the touchpad here. You can control all the information of the vehicle right from here. You can go through the different menus. You can get to your nav, vehicle settings, and everything. And if you're familiar with Mercedes vehicles in the past that used to have the rotary wheel, this kind of behaves similar because as you go around the systems, you get haptic feedback when you go over stuff, kind of like the old rotary wheel did. It's a nice modern way of doing things, and you definitely don't feel like you've missed out with that new system. However you'd like to interact with the system, Mercedes has you covered. Next, let's cover how you can customize the driver's information screen, because as you can see with these dual 12.3-inch screens, there's a lot to take in, and I'm going to hopefully help make things a little bit simpler for you. Now, In my opinion, I think out of the other brands, Audi and Porsche, Mercedes does a really nice job at letting you customize what you want without making it overcomplicated. Again, I just want to remind you that how you control this is via the left touchpad. And you hit the home button and you'll see display and designs. Oop. And you have a few different preset designs to pick from. The first one is understated. And it also changes the behavior of the infotainment screen too. If you notice, it kind of just became plain. And that's nice, especially if, you're a simple person and you just want this to not look too complicated. That's all you need. You have your speedometer, your RPMs, and the clock. Really nice, clean lines, simple. The next one is progressive. And as you can see, this has kind of gone into a little bit more of a futuristic design. Just take a look at how the infotainment system switched too. Really nice. Now let's take a look at sport. You can see everything's turned yellow and it looks a little bit more aggressive. You can see that the infotainment system's a little bit more minimalist. And now we'll take a look at classic. You can see everything's very simple, easy to read. You have a clear gauge cluster, and you can see how everything just looks a little bit more simple and basic, and that's nice. Now let's take a look into some of the comfort features of this car. If you go into the comfort menu, you'll notice that you have the option to select what kind of massage you want and the intensity of it. Now, it's really cool. You could pick from 4 different modes, and I'm actually getting a massage right now, and I gotta say it's really good. When it comes to other options, you also have something that's pretty cool called seat kinetics. And when you hit play, what it does is it moves the seat when you're on a long drive just a little bit every few minutes. It just adjusts the seat slightly, and what that does is it makes you less stiff on a long journey, and that's just a pretty neat thing that they thought of. Just a nice touch, figured I should mention it. Now this car has air suspension, not the E-active body control, so I can't really show off all the off-roading features. However, this still does have an off-road feature. So how you get to it is via the dynamic mode selector, where you have your 5 modes. You have individual, where you can custom tailor your suspension to your steering, to your shift program. You have sport mode, which makes the car corner a little bit flatter. The air suspension is still semi-active, where it helps you kind of, compensate for body roll. It's very comfortable. You have comfort mode, eco, and then you have off-road mode. And what off-road mode does is it puts the suspension all the way up and limits your speed, turns off the stability control so you could spin the tires in certain situations, like if you're in mud or something, and it won't cut the power on you. I'd recommend the GLS for somebody who is maybe coming from another luxury brand or had an S-Class in the past but just needs something bigger, because honestly, this is just an S-Class SUV. It really just feels like that, and that's a great thing. Well, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and that it helped you with your purchase decision. If you haven't done so yet, help me out by smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so you won't miss out on my future videos. I post every Wednesday and weekend, so stick around. However, before we leave, I'd like to say a special thank you to Dave Columb and Mercedes Benz of Fairfield, Connecticut for helping make this video possible. I'm going to link their website in the description below so that you can check out their inventory. They have plenty of new high-end AMG cars that are really rare, so be sure to check them out. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.